Welcome everyone to our Study Abroad podcast series. So, today we have our special guest Shreyash, who did a joint bachelor's from US and Hong Kong, and he's from India. So, we'll be knowing about his journey from India to Hong Kong to US. So, welcome Shreyash.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
So, Shreyash, when was the first time in your school you thought that maybe a study abroad option is the best career option for yourself?
Sure, yes. So before I answer this, I can give a little bit of background about myself. Right now I'm a senior at Columbia studying computer science. I'm part of the joint degree program between City University of Hong Kong and Columbia University. Uh, to answer your question specifically of when I thought of going abroad, it would be my 12th standard during October. So, City University of Hong Kong came to my high school back in Chennai. I went to PSBB KK Nagar, if any folks are there. But I'm from PSBB KK Nagar. So, City U came to PSBB. They did an information session. They said that if you can score good in your board exam and everything, you can get like a full scholarship, and then you can get multiple scholarships once you join the university, and it seemed a very attractive opportunity for me. So I I was an all in and out JEE mains JEE advanced kid since eighth grade. I actually qualified my JEE advanced too, but I decided not to go for any IITs because I felt like studying abroad would give me better vision and better perspective in life. And as of now, it's going good. So that's the background of how I got to know about abroad.
Sure, sure. So, this City University of Hong Kong, when they came to your school and you got excited and motivated to join, etc., and then you
Mm.
applied to this program. So, did you also think about any alternate programs as a backup, or this was the only program, let's say, apart from your JEE mains and City U University of Hong Kong? Did you apply to any other college?
Sure, yeah. So it got me overall thinking where else I can apply. But given that I was pretty late for US admissions, because US admissions usually close by November or January, it was hard for me to go for a US school. Um, I was thinking to go to UK, Scotland, as well as Ireland and Singapore. And I got into eight universities in total. So I got into University of Edinburgh in Scotland. I got into UCL for computer science. I got into HKU also on a scholarship. I got into City U. I got into Trinity College Dublin. I got into King's College. I got into University of Manchester. So I got into most of the universities that I applied, except for Singapore. Um, but and that was because I was the COVID batch, quote unquote. So my board results came in July, which was post their admission process. So they rejected most of the students who applied for scholarship, and I was one of the scholarship appliers. So that's why they rejected me. But apart from that, I got into most of the universities that I applied to.
So, you applied to roughly 10 universities, out of which you got like two, three rejected, and rest all
Yeah,
accepted you.
all accepted me with some kind of scholarship.
And so finally, how did you pin down to City University of Hong Kong?
Yeah, so I am the first in my whole family of lineage to go outside India. So I wanted to go somewhere close to India first and foremost. And second thing was, as I got most of my offers from UK, UK was undergoing Brexit that time. And the little we know about them is that they have a lot of visa laws that keep changing um, on a very regular basis. So I did not want to take the risk of going to the UK and then having end up having an issue not having any placements. So I decided not to pursue that. The left out option was whether to go to City University of Hong Kong, Trinity College Dublin, or University of Hong Kong. Um, Trinity College Dublin was an attractive option because as Brexit was happening, all companies were moving to Ireland. But sadly, I rejected them too because they gave me only 25% scholarship. So the left out option was HKU and CityU. Both gave me a full tuition scholarship. However, HKU had a program with Cambridge, CityU had a program with Columbia, and I always wanted to study at an Ivy. Um, and again, Cambridge was in UK. I did not want to disturb that whole area, so I decided to come to CityU and take the gamble.
Sure, sure. So you actually rejected the UK and all its relationships in all your colleges that you applied.
Yes, because I was very scared of like Brexit and its repercussions. So yes.
So this degree of yours, the Joint Bachelors program, you applied to this Joint Bachelors program, or was it an upgrade, or how was it? Like, I mean, is it available to everyone, or is it available to some people? Any special conditions here?
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, to be eligible for this program, you need to get into CityU. So once you get into CityU HK, I'll just call City University of Hong Kong as CityU for the ease. So you need to get into CityU first. Once you get into CityU, there are 15 eligible majors, out of which you can then, in your sophomore year or the so-called second year, apply for the Joint Bachelor's degree program. So the application process is basically you have an internal application to CityU. Then let's say I was a computer science student there. So I applied to the Department of Computer Science. Then they do an interview with me. If they feel I'm a good enough candidate, they will forward me to Columbia. And then Columbia will have an English language exam that you have to give, followed with an interview. And then I had the interview, the English language exam. And then post interview, you get your decision. So usually well, I currently mentor some of my students who are there in CityU for them to come for the program because the previous batches were initially more Chinese focused instead of international background, but I was the second Indian to get into this program. I was also the only non-Chinese to get into the program during my year, and I didn't feel that was right. So I tried to like encourage more of my other international juniors to apply for the program, and I basically guided them. And luckily, this year we have had six different countries represent, excluding mainland China. So we have Koreans, we have Japanese, we have Indonesian, Turkish, um, and two more which I forgot. But basically, we have a more diverse portfolio this time, and it's a program where I think 15 students get selected every year from a batch of 2,000 students. So it depends on, and usually it's about 100, students that apply for the program, and 15 of them eventually make it to the end.
So at the city, you had the option to do this joint bachelors. You probably had probably one more option to do maybe just an exchange at one of the colleges, or the third option
Yep.
would be like no exchange, no joint bachelors, etc. Just stay 3 4 years in Hong Kong only. Am I jotting all the possibilities, or is there any more possibilities?
Yes, that's the perfect possibility. The joint degree program actually CityU has with three other universities. So they have it with National Taiwan University too, and they have it with University of Edinburgh. And then I think there's one more university in Australia, but uh, we four are the four main programs that are part of the joint bachelor's degree.
Okay, okay. So joint bachelors probably fewer options. The exchange may have
Yes,
way more option, and obviously
way
the
more
third option
options.
is stay intact. Don't go anywhere. Save money maybe.
Indeed.
Sure, sure. So you opted for this joint bachelor's. So you had this joint bachelor's in your mind, right in your 12th standard, or once you went to CTU, then you were exposed to this option.
I knew about this option before joining CityU, and I was trying and planned everything, planned all my steps and everything since even before arrival at CityU. Uh, Once I got into CityU, I started to lay all my plans ahead, and it was a fun time. Like Because I was also nervous given that not, well, only one other Indian had made it to the program before me. So I was really nervous about that fact. But I think if you plan well and you work hard enough, they will recognize you and they will appreciate that.
Sure, sure. And the application process was very similar to all the applications of CTU, right? As a like a normal student, there was no special application for this before you go to CTU, right? Once you land in CTU, then there is like internal application. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, you're right. So once you land into CTU, you get a special access to the admission portal. But again, you have the same thing, statement of purpose, transcripts, letter of recommendations, all of those details of like your financial, like if you're applying for financial aid, then your financial discussions, um, backgrounds, app questions, all of those like regular application process.
Sure, sure. What is the timeline of this joint bachelor's usually? Like, what is the minimum to max duration that you can apply and finish this off?
So students at CTU are eligible to apply only during their sophomore year, which is their second year, and it is during the fall semester, which would be semester one in CTU. So semester one applications start probably in October, like September and October, and by December, just before New Year's is the deadline, more closer to Boxing Day or so, and you need to submit your application by then, after which you will be notified if you are selected for interview and the so-called American Language Proficiency Exam, which is called ALP in short. So the English exam and then the interview. And all of this gets over by February third week, Feb third or fourth week. And decisions are rolled out January third week. And students have time until May to make a decision of whether they want to continue pursuing the program by paying a deposit fee or reject the program.
Sure, sure. So your initial IELTS or TOEFL score is not valid for this second application.
So it is valid, but they prefer to have TOEFL scores. So if you have given TOEFL before, it is fine. But if you gave IELTS, you need to write TOEFL.
Okay, okay, okay. It's just a preference thing. And I mean,
Yeah,
if people
it's
knew
an
this before,
American.
they can obviously do TOEFL instead of IELTS, and that way they can avoid the dual test probably.
Yep, yeah. That does make sense. But we should also remember the fact that TOEFL is not accepted everywhere in the world. It's more of an NAM thing, whereas IELTS is something that's accepted because I was planning to apply only Europe, Australia, and Ireland areas like Hong Kong and everything. So IELTS was a better option back then.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Or maybe you just give both the test so that you are eligible for all the
Might as
colleges.
well.
Yeah, yeah. Sure, sure. And once you decided to go to CityU, you had to book your accommodation, flight, visa, etc. Which of these gave the most hiccups? Like which of these was the hardest, easiest in your experience?
I think the best part about CityU is that especially if you're applying to Hong Kong or Singapore, both these nations do visa process for you. So the university does the visa process for you. You do not have to go through any struggle of going to the embassy or going anywhere and doing things. So that was a good part. So I got my visa within, I think, a month of my deposit fees payment and everything. So it was really quick. Accommodation was not a problem because all freshmen are guaranteed accommodation in City U, at least the first 2 years. The third year, they either get a return, which I was lucky that I got, uh, or they can find off-campus housing as well. So I think in terms of hiccups, there was literally nothing apart from the fact that I am again the COVID batch. So because of that, quarantine was the problem. Finding the right quarantine hotel or finding the exact package, and also given the fact that I was limited to only 46 kgs of luggage, and I was going for the first time out of India. So I was taking a lot of things. So I think that was the problem. But had there not been the COVID or quarantine issue, I think from school's perspective, everything was perfect.
Sure, sure. And once you went to Hong Kong for this initial quarantine, etc., did you also had like few more people with you, or you went alone that time?
So we did form a group already. I knew some other CS students. I'm not sure if you have met some of those other CS students from Columbia, but they are from my batch. So I had like Lavas Rani, and Sukrit, Avinesh, like all these people with whom I was living, like because we were the batch that was going together. So we all lived together in one of the hotel quarantine rooms. And yeah, it was fine. Like we were able to communicate before, book accordingly, book our flights accordingly. Although all four of us were coming from different parts of India, we were still able to land in Hong Kong together and go and do our quarantine together too.
So during this quarantine, were you allowed to see each other, or it was just through phone only?
So I had an roommate. So Love Asrani was my roommate. But so we both were in the same room for I think 14 days. Uh, then 14 or 21 days, I don't remember at this point. But it was one of those, and we were only allowed to communicate via phone to anyone else outside the room. We could get our deliveries. So my hotel allowed deliveries, so we could do delivery, and they would come and drop it off outside the door.
Sure, sure. And once your quarantine was over, you moved to your university accommodation, right?
Indeed.
How was the cooking, cleaning process for your university accommodation? Did you had to do some of those, or it was all taken care of in
So,
the accommodation?
cleaning is taken care in the accommodation. They that is like weekly, twice or thrice they clean, and weekly once they clean your washrooms. So everything is kept clean, especially the common areas. However, in terms of cooking, I did not know how to cook back then, so I did not cook much. Um, and I was way too caught up with a bunch of things because I was part of three student societies. I was also preparing for this program while trying to make sure that I can do enough credits um, to be eligible for the program as well, right? So I did not do cooking, so cannot comment on that. But cleanliness, the university took care every week. Like it, we never had a cleanliness issue.
Sure, sure. And once you started your classes, you went to classes. What were the key difference in the education, let's say India, Hong Kong, Colombia, as of now?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, and what I would say is that in India, well, I've not taken any college level courses, so I cannot comment on my college level courses. But in terms of my high school, it was really a very rigorous high school. I went to a very, very rigorous high school. So it was good for me. Um, they trained me well because once you go to Hong Kong, the competition goes above the bar. Everyone is really, really smart there. Even if I went to City U and not HKU, which people would consider to be the more prominent university, City U was still hard. Like if you look at most of our GPAs from anyone from City U, we all, especially international students, had issues coping up because there is actual challenge there. And their grading system is really, really harsh, but they are also fair. Like they have a harsh grading system, but they're fair about it. And whatever score you get in the end is a fair score that you deserved. And it was very much based on exams and like, being well in your exam portions than your assignment portions for most of the courses. But here at Columbia, um, again, extremely academically rigorous university, especially for undergrads pursuing computer science. Uh, but they focus on your overall semester. So most of the weightage of your final grade is given to your homeworks, your like in-class participation. Like in-class participation was one of the biggest change that I found because here 15 to 10, like 10 to 15% of your grade depends on in-class participation. So you have to be interactive in the class. You have to participate in discussions. So I would say that that was the core difference that I found, that they valued more the the process rather than the final exam, uh, which which is also good, but which makes things easier for people who have come from an academically rigorous background. So that helps out over the period.
Sure, sure. What about part-time jobs and internships? Did you do some of them, and how was your experience?
Of course. Beautiful question. In terms of my part-times and internships, yes, I have been doing part-time since my first semester in Hong Kong. I found a job working for, well, I did a couple of roles before I found my complete, like proper part-time job at CityU. So at CityU, I was initially research assistant to two different professors. Um, but then later, research assistant roles are not very long lasting. They're usually for like a semester long. So I wanted to do something where I could talk to students or where I could work with the admissions team. So then I joined the global engagement office and I was working with them to explore new regions of where we can get our students from, or like new markets that we could explore. So it was like a data analyst role, quote unquote. But that was, and I was also part of like the ambassador program. So I was promoting the university everywhere. I was doing a bunch of things in terms of student communication. Sorry. So all of that was happening. Then in my third year, because I was in computer science department at CityU, we it's compulsory for us to do a 9 month to 1 year long co-op program. So I was lucky that I got into two companies. So I split my internship into 6 and 6 months. For the first 6 months, I worked for the Hong Kong Jockey Club, which is a very big entertainment non-profit firm in Hong Kong that provides jockey races and other betting schemes and everything. So I worked as a software engineer there. Next, I worked for a bank. I worked for HSBC for 6 months, and I worked for the commercial banking sector as an analyst. So that was an interesting experience. And then after all of this got over, I came to Colombia, finished my 1 year of studies here, and then the past summer I worked in a crypto exchange platform called Coinline LLC as a quant trader. So that was my full-time job during the summer. But also on campus, I work as resident advisor, where I advise my students, and I manage about 700 students in that area. So that helps me get free housing. Right now, I'm in free housing. And second thing is, I also work part-time for the IT department, where I fix projectors, computers, the typical IT lifestyle. So I do that as my other part-time job.
Sure, sure. So these part-time jobs and internships and all the scholarships that you received, you are pretty much getting a like a free education in a if you do all the sum total of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm actually getting free because I think I sat with my dad and we did this discussion and the whole budgeting. And we found out that we hardly even spent 15% of the actual budget that we had in mind. Uh, and in fact, for my this senior year, my final year at Columbia, I'm paying everything by myself. Like after including all scholarships, and because even Columbia, I have a scholarship called the Anne Marie Gold Scholarship. So overall, I'm like touch wood, I'm able to finance myself for my final year. The only year that was like where my parents had to contribute would be my quarantine time when I was like traveling in and around, as well as when I moved to US as a new student before I got my jobs and stuff. Because Colombia is expensive. It is an expensive place. So that was maybe the initial time where they spend money. But otherwise, you can do it by yourself.
Sure, sure. So this is an example for our audience as well that money is not the only reason why people can't go abroad. There are ways to actually work around the money, and maybe there is a bit of a initial investment, but the recovery is also possible while working and doing this part-time job, the scholarship, and even like after post graduation, etc. So if they see it in a frame of like 5, 10 years, probably they will end up having the money on the positive side rather than on the negative side overall, like sum total.
Of
Correct.
course, yes, that is so true.
And so once you left Hong Kong and you came to Colombia, did you like go back to India for a while and then you flew to New York, or you were doing everything from Hong Kong directly? You went to Colombia.
So, when when I finished my Hong Kong journey, I actually was lucky enough to get into an honors program at Stanford over the summer. So I thought that it would be a good pit stop. So I went from Hong Kong, and then if you go through the Pacific side, Stanford comes first, and then comes Columbia. So I called it like a layover for 3 months. It was a nice, fun layover, and I also got scholarship for that. So I did not have to spend money on that either, except for the traveling part and living part, because that was something I had to pay for. But it was a wonderful experience. I was at Stanford. I was doing this entrepreneurship program where I was meeting a lot of executives every week, which was extremely fascinating given that I was in the Bay Area. So had a fun time talking to LinkedIn co-founder, talking to bunch of co-founders there, getting more insights on how the whole entrepreneurship world works. But also I wanted to study math. So I studied probability there. Means I studied advanced probability, like advanced theoretical probability there, which was also an interesting course. Very interesting professor. Met some cool classmates. Had a fun time in the Bay Area. Came to Columbia after that.
Sure, sure. And you did hunt all these part-time jobs, internships, summer programs, etc., and then getting scholarship, getting paid, etc. for that. Which all platforms did you make use of finding all this? Like probably LinkedIn was one of them, and anything else?
Yes, so LinkedIn was a good part of it, but actually to find internships, back when I was in Hong Kong, I did it mainly through like there was an internal portal for CS students in CityU. So we used that to find jobs because companies posted CityU HK specific jobs there. So that helped me. And I did not apply for a lot of jobs. I think I applied only for like 15 or 20 jobs. And I got these two jobs already and I was done with it. When I came to Colombia, I found the jobs through a platform that is an internal platform at Columbia called Lion Share, which is powered by Handshake, which is one of the leading jobs providing. Like it's an alternative to LinkedIn, but for students. So I use that to find my jobs here, including LinkedIn as well. And for on-campus jobs, I just reached out to people. I reached out to departments that I was interested in. I reached out to places where I think I could add value and got them. That's it.
So there was a lot of networking also you did, like offline networking, reaching out to people, meeting
Yeah.
them, and then finding like opportunities, etc. So what suggestion would you give in terms of networking? A lot of people are quite shy in approaching people and then asking for help or asking for favors, etc. How did you overcome your shyness?
Okay. So, first and foremost, I think I would probably not consider myself shy at all because I have been an extremely extroverted person since whoever knows me since probably I was born. I don't know. But I always like to talk to people. And in fact, my second internship at Hong Kong, which was the HSBC internship, I got it through a referral. So I actually got the job from a connection of mine who was working there previously. And he just happened to put my resume through. And the boss loved me, like his supervisor loved me. And I got into the team. Um, I would say it's really important to talk to people, to network with people. Uh, but if you're shy, I wouldn't say that you have to go out and speak out yourself, but it doesn't mean that you would go and start asking favors. Because I think if I'm on the receiving end, I wouldn't like someone to come and talk to me just about favors. So let them talk, let them speak more about themselves, because everyone likes to talk about themselves. If even if you're shy, it is very easy to ask the other person, "Hey, what's your background? Or what's your story?" Ask open-ended questions. Do that. And once the person starts to talk more, they will build a bond with you, they will start trusting you more. And then down the lane, after two more coffee chats, you can be like, "Hey, I have this job that I saw onto the posting. Do you think you can refer me or give me any tips or guidance?" And that's it. That's how it works.
Sure, sure. So focus on the relationship building, and maybe the favor will come as a side effect.
Indeed. Yes.
Sure, sure. So, what are your future goals for the next few years?
Yep. Very good question. But as of now, the goal is that I am applying for my master's in financial engineering sector. And because I'm at Columbia, I get this express application program to the Columbia's master's program, which is like the fourth or fifth best master's program in the world for financial engineering. So that becomes like a backup for me. But apart from that, I'm applying to the obvious other four better places, or comparatively better places for financial engineering in other parts of US. So either it's going to be grad school, or I'm also having a bunch of final round interviews that I'm currently part of. So it would be that. So either it's going to be becoming a quant analyst at one of the alternate asset management firms, or to pursue my master's degree while continuing my part-time at CoinLion, which was my summer internship program.
Okay. So, Shreyas, coming to the very last question, what advice would you give to the aspirant, the younger yourself, who are in school, let's say, and then they're thinking about this joint bachelors or just bachelors from abroad?
Yeah. I would first and foremost say that don't be afraid, don't be scared about it. Uh, don't think about finances until you actually get into the place, because you're just constraining yourself and you're restricting yourself. So go for it, give it a try. Hopefully things will work out. Once they work out, you can always find alternative ways to do the thing. Because I technically did 5 years of my education without any loans. And it's not that I come from a upper class family. I'm also a very normal middle class family boy. It's just that I feel like if you constrain yourself, you will just fall into that loop of being into constraints. And I would say that board exams are important. Like, don't neglect board exams if you're a JEE or NEET aspirant, because JEE and NEET, we should realize for a fact that they are probably 0.1% acceptance rate. Even if you put 15% of that effort into your Harvard application, you would be at Harvard. Like, it's not that hard. You just have to focus on becoming a better leader, try to have more extracurricular opportunities while maintaining your academics really good. So do both together. In fact, this is also the advice that I'm giving to my brother, who who is also soon going to be like he's currently in 10, so he's also getting into that sphere. But in short, don't worry about it. Give it a shot. Don't constrain yourself. Anything can happen. You can literally get rejected from every university, but one of the Ivies will accept you. You never know. Everyone has a different recruitment process. Never limit yourself, is what I would say. And reach out to other seniors on LinkedIn, or ask your parents to reach out to other seniors or counselors so that they can help you connect with current students who can give you more insights on what they did right. Or also follow LWT, and they can also tell you how, because you do have a lot of podcasts, especially. So you can get a wide range of inputs, not just in US, but everywhere else, right? So it's a good opportunity to explore, but don't restrict yourself. That's the main thing.
Sure, sure. And actually, the school students don't use LinkedIn so much. So, what would be your recommendation on them using Instagram versus LinkedIn, let's say? Any recommendation they should start using LinkedIn from the teenage or something?
Okay, so I think I'm a bit different. I made my LinkedIn account when I was in ninth grade. So I've had LinkedIn for a very long period of time. In fact, I made my Instagram account in 11th. So I got my Instagram after I got my LinkedIn account. Uh, but I would say that you don't have to stress about having a good LinkedIn account because, again, unless you're like a student body president or something like that, it's probably not, it's just probably going to be a ghost account that you would build. But I would say if you have any extracurricular activities, even if you're like part of the basketball team or like the team captain of a basketball team or so, it's a good thing to start with your LinkedIn because it gives you the habit of you will learn better and then you can keep changing things as soon as you get into your future journey. But Instagram versus LinkedIn, I would say if you know seniors from your school, or if you know people from your college or like junior college or school that have gone for an abroad program and you have their Instagram connection, you can also talk to them on Instagram. They're not going to deny you. But LinkedIn would be a good thing to start building up when you have started to recognize your other extracurricular achievements or any achievements in general.
Sure. Also to reach out the strangers because, like Instagram, you said, you can only reach out to the known people, whereas in LinkedIn, we can also reach out to the unknown, just like, we met. So,
Yes, of course, you can do that too. Like, and you don't have to make your own LinkedIn. You can always ask your parents or your someone else to like connect you over to someone else. Because if you do not have access to the technology, it's absolutely fine. Um, you want to focus on your studies more than LinkedIn, you can do that. Just reach out to people and get more inputs.
sure, sure, sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Shreyash, for all the insights. And it was great to know you started your LinkedIn account in like class 9. And we hope some of our audience would also follow the same. Thank you. Have a good day.
Indeed. Of course, sure. Thanks for having me.